There we go. Hey, folks, welcome to Harmony Chat here with the Composer Exchange. I want to put out a special thanks to PyBox and Slack for allowing us to use their tools to communicate, collaborate, and do a lot of fun things here. Hey, folks, welcome to Harmony Chat here. And we have some folks that are returning back to our group. We really appreciate seeing Jack and John here. And today we're going to be giving a little presentation on what it's based on something I discovered while I was kind of practicing. Let me do a screen share here and see if I can get the audio correct for you guys. Let me go into here and we're going to go over to this one. Go over to desktop 3 and then share sound. And I think that you guys will be able to hear my DAW. And I hope that's correct. So you tell me if you don't hear it, but let's get over here. Are you able to hear the DAW? Kind of, it's not coming through correct.
It was a little soft. I don't know if...
I wonder if it's coming through the speakers versus the...
I heard play, but
let me make sure that that's on Studio Live. Isn't there's another setting I believe that we have to have in here that was I remember it was
original sound for musicians.
Original sound for musicians. Let me come back over to here and there it is. Original sound is off. Now I'm going to try it on again. I'm going to come back here and see if this works, and you guys let me know if that's going to be happening. Oops, now I have to come over here and click on here.
Yes.
That's better? Okay, good. That'll help things.
yeah, it's great. It's just my system, your voice is only coming in on the right, but the DAW came in centered.
Yeah, that's kind of typical of what happens with this, but that's good. Okay. Okay, so what I discovered this as I was kind of doing my practicing along, and I'm like, God, this is really boring, but I need to do it, right? And I remembered some of the I'm always, when you hear a jazz chord, you hear that raise of two tones, right? And we went through a couple things with in this group with Tony's stuff, with you having a common tone as you're kind of moving around chord progressions, and I took that same concept and kind of applied that the technique that they use in, say, Green Dolphin Street, where it's that where they're going down. Well, then, so you just kind of take that and you're going down. So what that is, that's just going from a major 7. So if everybody has a keyboard handy, so you can kind of see that, you're just lowering 2 tones. You're lowering the 7th and the 3rd to go to the minor. Now what I'm doing is I'm lowering the 1st and the 5th and going to the major 7 below it to the B major. Okay, then going to that next root, or the next level of taking and lowering the 3rd and the 7th again, and then lowering the 5th and the 1st again, and I'm going down in this case chromatically. So for example, when I'm I'm going to the, and then changing that to the minor, and then going to the major, and keep going down. Now this technique of just lowering 2 tones, you can do a lot of neat things with it. You can use it in the lesson that I think it was Stuart that gave. He had these alternate resolutions. So for example, if you're going from C major 7, then you're going to go up that chromatic thing. It's going to be a minor as the next. So you're going to go to the D flat minor 7, and then go to the major 7. You're doing that same technique of raising 2 tones at a time. So you're going. Now, listen to where that takes us. It's like a 2-5-1. It's a substitution for a 2-5-1. So you're going. So you can use this technique as a way to modulate or just kind of keep going. So you can keep going up the scale. You can keep going up and create that tension. I have a couple little examples I'll play for you in a second here. But if you're going up, and let's say that you're then going to go to the major, and then you keep going, so you're going to go to the D flat or the D major.
Is there any way we can see your hands? Have you got like a keyboard view?
I can kind of do that, I think. Can I? Sort of. You can't really see it very well. Okay. If you look at if you can see the DAW here, I'm going to take like, I'm going to go, this is going down. Well, actually it's going up here. So I'll use this as an example. Where are we? Let's take it at the, well, this isn't a good way to do it, but, I'll just try to go slower if that helps. But
if we double click on your picture, you go full screen. So that's probably the easiest way for us to do it.
Do what again?
If we click on your picture in the gallery, if we double click on it, it goes full screen. Yeah.
Okay. So for an example, so the first use is if you're using it in a substitution for a 2-5-1, where you're going from the C major 7 to a D flat minor 7 to then the major 7 and then back to the C. So it's that, which is similar to if you did a 2-5-1. But so you feel that it pulls you back to the 1. As a kind of a 2-5-1 will take you back to the 1. It gives you a landing. It allows you to feel like you've landed. So I went up and then I went down. I came home. All right, I landed. Now you can use that as a modulation technique. So if you do the same thing, but you go up twice and then come down. So for example, I'm going to go C major 7. To the D flat minor 7, to the major. Now I'm going to keep going up a half step in this case, and I'm going to go to the D minor, and then the D major 7, and then if I come back to the D flat major 7, it takes me home. So it's the same, so this technique in this case is useful for modulating to bringing you kind of in to land on the D flat major 7. So, if you're just going, it's kind of abrupt and you're going up. It's kind of increasing tension as opposed to kind of feeling like you're landed. So you can take those. So did everybody hear what I did or see what I did? So I went, if you get a little piece of paper and you write it down, it's C major 7, going up to the D flat minor 7, to the D flat major 7, then going up to the D minor 7, and then going up to the D major 7, and then your landing home goes, instead of back to the C, it goes to the D flat major 7. Okay, so it's a pretty neat technique. And there's if you go up the entire row, the entire scale chromatically, you end up with 24 variations. Okay, so there's 24 chords. So what I have here is I've put together a couple things in here. Let me come back over here. So the first one is kind of that feeling of when you're doing them slow. and taking your time. And in this case, I have at a tempo of 120, I have every 2 bars. And you'll see at different paces, it has a different feel and a different use depending on where you want to apply it. So this is kind of a neat technique for playing around with jazzy kinds of things. So in the case of like kind of the Green Dolphin Street type of a feel, I think this will play. Oops, I have to do this. Is that right? Yeah. So this is going at a pace of every bar. So there's enough time to kind of absorb the beauty of the chord itself, the 7 chord. So it isn't it's pulling you into this to a somewhat suspenseful space, but not being too aggressive with it, and you because you have time to kind of let the chords sink in. If I mute these even longer, now these are, I think this one's going up. This one's going to go up. The other one went down. So you can use it for creating tension, but not taking away the having a rich 7th chord is really beautiful. And you're going back and forth between the major and minor, and that's creating the tension, but it's not resolving, it's not bringing you back because you're going all the way up or you're going all the way down. And I have a couple different examples that I can share with that. Any questions so far? Yeah, John.
When you're changing just 2 notes at a time, what are you change? Are you doing just the 1st and the 5th, or you kind of keep moving around to get these changes just by changing 2 notes at a time?
I
Like
changed
1st,
2 notes
5th, 3rd, 7th.
when I'm looking at it in a chromatic sense. I'm taking the C major, and first, if I'm going up, I'm changing, which notes I change. So if I'm going up, I'm going to change the 1st and the 5th. And then the common tones are the E and the B. And then I change that to a major 7, and I'm changing the 3rd and the 7th. And then when I go up a half step again, I'm changing the 1st and 5th again. And then that ends up being the D minor 7. And then I go the 5th and the 7th. And then I go the 1st and the 5th. Then the 5th and the 7th. 1st and the 5th. 5th and the 7th. So do you see the pattern? Okay. So now, again, for practicing piano, it's a great exercise because you're changing your arpeggios and it's not as boring, and it kind of gets your mind thinking and that sort of thing. Really cool way to do that. You can also use it again then as a substitute for a 2-5-1, kind of turnaround, because it has that feeling of bringing you home. If you're using it chromatically and you're going up, you can then also use it as a way to modulate to the half step up. If I'm going from a C major to a D flat major 7, I can just have a transition that's going to go and then back down. So now you kind of forgot that you were in C, because you had this little transition that took you to the D flat instead of just going, hey guys, we're in a new key, let's you forgot about it because you had a transition that took you there. And you can do that in a quick little run that will bring you back there. And I have a couple examples of some quicker runs.
Chris,
Yeah.
so if I understand you correctly, basically, if we all in our left hand did a C and a G, and in the right hand did an E and a B, and then we move one hand at a time chromatically up.
That's actually a really cool way to think about it.
So it's just they're just fifths apart. So you move your left hand and then the right hand and then I think that's because I was getting kind of all mixed up, but I think that's what you're doing.
Yeah, actually, that's a really neat. I didn't put that exercise, in my little play here. That's a really great way to think about it. Um, uh, but in thinking about and you could and from a voicing perspective for your transitions, that's a really cool idea. Actually, thank you for sharing that, Jack. That's really a neat way to think about it. So I have a couple other examples that I can show you just to kind of see how this ties into different kinds of kind of moods of using it. So the first one that I use, this, like I said, it's like the Green Dolphin Street kind of a vibe where I think I have to hit here. Nope, nope, I have to click here. Oh, did I? But it's leading you somewhere. So it's leading you. You can use it to go. You're on a journey, but it's that same kind of flavor that the Green Dolphin Street has. Now, in this progression, you can also go down a whole step with your progression. So if you're going, in this case, you'll see this when the chords come up here. But in this case, I'm going down instead of up. So I'm going C major to C minor to B major to B minor, and then I'm going to B flat major to B flat minor. Now I'm changing and I'm going down a whole step, but so I'm coming from a minor, I'm going to the major, and then to the minor, and then to the major, and then to the minor. Now I could go down a whole step again. So you don't necessarily have to. In that case, you're not, you're changing from the minor to the major instead of. There isn't really the common tones, but it's related to the same kind of technique, and it's moving. It's moving either the first and the fifth, or the third and the seventh when you're going down chromatically, but you can skip a whole note, a whole step, going down or going up, and it feels good. So the point is you can use this as a transition in getting to different tonal centers, or getting to another, just getting a different flavor of what you're doing, of the emotion that you're trying to pull out, so that it doesn't sound repetitive. Because it's really easy for this to sound kind of mechanical, and you'll hear that as I play some of these other examples. So I'll play a couple different examples. So let me pull up. Okay, so this one is going straight up. Okay, this is just going up the scale, and I'm going to pull this up over here so you can see it. So when I start. Whoops, I have two going on at once here. That's not right. I have to turn these guys off.
It kind of sounded awesome.
You can play with it, but yeah. Well, and that's kind of one of the neat things. It's a dissonance in a different. Oh, where the hell did you go now? Let me come down here. It was this one right here. Did I put you behind me somehow? Where the heck did it go? Let me pull this up. Okay, I think I somehow put it off. There it is. I see it. Too many screens. I'll pull this guy over here. All right. So we'll take a quick listen, and then and this will go this goes 24 chords. Okay, and you can do the same thing going down. So I'm gonna I don't have that one going down, but I'm going to share a couple other ways that that could be used. So, for example, if that's happening a little bit faster, let's try this one. So this is just a quick little run up. The same, it's 24, a little shorter, but here we go. So you can see, you can hear how that could be a really interesting, orchestral transition, depending on what you're doing. So what I did is I broke apart the beginning part of it into an arpeggio and then had them grouped together. So a couple of these other examples that I'm going to go through. The first one is the same thing going down, and then I'll share the how I broke them apart into arpeggios. So here's this one, just same thing going down. Okay. Now, if you take the same thing and you let's have it. Before I go into the arpeggios, let's try it with the up and down. So if I take this one over here, and this one's going up. Whoop, excuse me, up and down. Now, I'm a wussy piano player. I did not play that live, so it sounds really mechanical. But anyways, here's the same thing done with a little bit different pattern. In other words, I'm going up and down and up and down in a shorter ratio. So kind of like how John Williams used that planing technique that we talked about in last week's session. It's similar to that, except it's not the same chord. It's changing. Okay, it's kind of planing two notes at a time, depending on how you use it. But it's working its way up in a little bit of a, I guess, kind of a zigzag pattern, tonally. So hopefully you can see how this could be a useful transition tool for going from one kind of a section to another kind of section, or changing to a different tonal center, or using it as a kind of a turnaround, an alternate turnaround type of situation. So here's like a couple of the other examples. I'll do a shorter one and then a longer one. Let me see if I get this to the right one. Oh, there it is, up here. So what I did in this case is I took this row of 4 for the chord, and I just turned it into an arpeggiator, and I changed going arpeggio. I changed going from the high to the low, low to high, and you'll see that it kind of creates a pattern of going top to bottom, depending on how you arrange these. Whether or not you have, what I was thinking is the bottom being low to high, and then low to high, or high to low, depending on how you're thinking about setting up your arpeggio. And they sound a little different, but it's a really neat technique where if you divide, if you have a little bit of arpeggio and then you have the chords kind of blocked together, it sounds something like this. Whoops, I didn't shut the other one off. Sorry about that. I'll turn that one off. And this one on. Okay, so here's the arpeggio with the block chords after it. So you can see how that could be really useful in a cinematic kind of transition, where you're coming from one kind of a tense scene, or you're building the tension as you go. The next one is similar. It's just I arpeggiated a little bit longer in the process. Where did we go? Bring this guy over here. Here we go. So again, just an example of some, tension building, transition types of things. Here's another one. I think I went up and down on this one instead of going straight up. So you can feel that a little bit of that jazzy thing when you get into the arpeggios, but it's I think it's a real interesting, colorful way to go from various moods and tensions. One of the challenges is writing melodies. Now, I didn't get into I wasn't like going crazy trying to write this incredible melody, but there's two examples and they're subtly different. And one is the first one that I'll play is a little bit more of a, it's a little bit more moody tension wise, where the other one was trying to really stick to chord tones and be a little bit more, little less kind of eerie, if you will. So the first melody here is a little bit, and it's kind of a cheesy string sound the way this came out. But here's what I did. I took and I played this melody going up with these chordal transitions, and then I took a break and I played a couple just pretty seventh chords. And went to a little bit more of a diatonic, just a kind of a resting place of feeling comfortable before I went into a little tension set again. And this is over the same kind of 24 bars, but I just swapped out the chords in the middle of it. So when it kicks back in, it's kind of picking up where it left off. But then I come back again to those just to show an example. It's nothing beautiful by any means, but you can hopefully get an idea of what I'm talking about. So anyways, that's just kind of an example. Now that I think it's going to this chord progression is a G major, a G flat major 7 going down to a D flat major 7, and that's coming out of, in this case, at this transition, it's coming out of the C major, because I went the chords originally went all 24 and then landed on the C major, so it's coming out, it's going from a C major 7 to the tritone major 7 coming out of this. So but so it's a little abrupt, but it kind of doesn't matter because of where you came from. Earlier in this section where I came to it the first time, this, and don't get confused by these chords, those are not related to this at all. But when I came to it to the from here, I was actually coming from, what was the chord here? Give me a second. Oh yeah, so from here, the natural progression coming from the chord before it was actually the F sharp minor 7. So it's going from the F sharp minor 7 from here into the F sharp major 7. So, and that's part of kind of the natural progression, right? To kind of go up. But then when you get there, you're like, wow, it's a beautiful place. Let me just keep going here. So every time you come to that major in that in this progression, you can just kind of stay there and be in a happy place. You could probably do the same thing going into a, from the major into the minor and then staying into the minor. But in this case, I just did a cut and paste and just wanted to see how it sounded, and that's what this ending section ended up being, where I added the melody, going into this, but it's going again from a C major 7 up to the to this little section that was the G flat major 7. So that's why it sounds it's a little less warm than the other one. So that's kind of that's an abrupt change. Wait, am I in the right one? No, I'm not.
Yeah, can you show what's within the track instead of this view, so that we can see
Uh,
the note? You know, the note.
You're coming
Yeah,
from.
right. Yeah, that's a little more
I
useful.
got you.
Yeah.
So I'm coming out of this. In this case, it's the C sharp. This is the C sharp F. This is the major 7. And that's going into wait a second. This is still the. Okay, where'd you go now? There it is. Okay. So I think I have to come into clicking on this. All right. So when you come out of that, so what we're coming out of is, oh, come on. Oh, it goes back to the beginning. Sorry. So I'm coming out of that into the B flat. Yes. So I'm coming out of that from a D flat major 7. So it's going that little transition piece that I put in there, and it doesn't really matter. You could be whatever you choose in that middle section, because the whole point is using these chromatic transitions as a transition into wherever you're going. In this case, it's going from it's grabbing where that had picked up if I would have kept going. So that is coming from a D flat major 7 into the minor, which I believe is this the minor? This is the. No, it's actually going into the major. It's starting at the B flat major. So it's going and then to the minor B. So it's in this case, let's take it from here. So going from the major to the major isn't as abrupt as coming in at the end of it, where we're going probably coming out of this, which is over at 8. And I know this is a lot harder to follow because I didn't really map this out for being able to show, but hopefully you'll be able to follow. So if I'm coming here, I'm coming out of a C major 7, which is in the run of the 24. It's the end, kind of to start over. But I'm coming out of the C major and I'm going directly into this, which is a tritone away, and that is the F sharp major 7. So I'm coming, which was what I used in that little middle transition. So coming out of the top of this. But it doesn't feel like a tritone that I'm going to. It just kind of feels it kind of, because I went from a minor to a major in that case, it just felt, well, no, it was a major to a major 7. It felt kind of smooth, even though it was a tritone away. Okay, so hopefully this will give you some fun stuff to play with. Just a recap, it can be used as a 2-5-1 type of substitution. It can be used, you're working with it chromatically. You can use it to transition to a new key as a mechanism for that. You can play with it for that same kind of transition to a new key or a tonal center over a longer period, kind of playing with that jazzy Green Dolphin Street kind of a flavor, where you're just kind of meandering down to a place that you want to land, or up to a place that you want to land. You can use it as a technique with arpeggios or block chords for those modal transitions to build tension to get to a place. And you can also use it to practice your chops if you're, doing your exercises, because that's kind of how I stumbled on this, was just giving myself some variety for going through those, and then just going to them, changing around. So that's what I got. If you guys have any questions, did I lose anybody? Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Sorry I'm late, but hey, so what's going to be the? I mean, I don't want to have you go through it again, but what do you want to have as the
assignment?
thing to write? The assignments, yes.
Yes. Use the technique in a transition, so you could be writing a pretty little piece, and then you're gonna all of a sudden go into some tension, and you're gonna build up to some place. Just use that technique, and you missed the simplification.
Yeah, what's the technique? Are you talking about just tritones? Is that, or is there something more?
No. Okay, so you came in late, so I'll just recap the easiest way, and Jack pointed this out. It's great. So if you're playing, say, a C major chord, major 7 chord, and you're gonna go up a half step on 2 of the tones. So from a C major, you're gonna go up to a D flat minor 7, and then you're gonna raise the other 2 tones, which would be the 3rd and the 7th, to make that a major 7. And then you're just going to keep doing that. So the way Jack pointed it out is that if you have on the left hand the 1 and the 5, and in the right hand the 3 and the 7, and you take turns moving them up a half step.
Okay.
Oops. Etc. Okay. Well, hopefully you guys can have some fun with this. Should be pretty straightforward, but you can either use it in one of those applications, in writing some kind of a composition. You can just write a jazz tune like a Green Dolphin Street and kind of go down longer than just go down a couple levels or up a couple levels to get to some place, or you can use it as a transition to a new key, or a tension transition with some kind of arpeggios and or block chords to get to the same place.
Christopher, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
How do you use it for a 2-5-1? What could you give us an example, going from like a G7 to a C? What chords would you use, please?
Well, let me just use it on the C. Okay, so there's my 1. There's my tonal center, right? And basically, if I'm gonna go up to the D flat minor, to the major,
yeah,
and then just back.
So
it's really a 2-2. It's really a 2-2-1. But because you're raising those notes.
Yeah.
And that was pretty close to your lesson, what you were showing, and being able to use just about anything for that alternate 2-5-1 feeling.
Yeah.
It's just that your ear hears it coming back.
So it sounds like a 2-5-1.
But it's a 2-2-1, really.
It's a 2-2-1. That's great. Thanks.
So
Chris, I was wondering if you know how it can sound a little jazzy and stuff, and if we wanted to get away from that, perhaps we could use the technique by using alternate scales. And have you experimented with that, or played with, I don't, Neo-Riemannian scale or something, to see?
I did one that where was the one that I had? Oh yeah, okay. So I have what I played with this one is I just did a chromatic scale in here. In other words, when I blocked out this chord, for example, yeah, this is so. For example, this is the no after no. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll pull it over here. What I did is so the F, the A flat, and the D flat, and what would have been the B, or would have been, yeah, what that note moved down here, but no, did I do that? No, because I only did the 3. So for example, let me see if I find a better way to do that. Well, what I played with here is I took the arpeggio, and then I copied and pasted that note and moved it up. Okay. So this note and this note and this note of that are the essentially the same intervals, and I just pasted it and moved it up because they fell in between. So I didn't really get into what scale it was. I wasn't thinking about that. I was just kind of playing around. And then I took it a step further, and I went and I created the other tones in between. And sometimes when I did that, this is pretty much a chromatic line, except to fill in the spaces, it has a double note in it. So this is playing around with that. You could, pick and choose, pull notes out, but for the most part, this is just, chromatic and playing with the chords, kind of moving the scale tones up and down. So for example, you can hear how this sounds. Let me make sure that I have this one and only this one going. Yes. Okay. So this should play, and you can just get a feeling. I think that's kind of quiet, so let me pull that up in volume. And then let me play that with this guy right here. So you're going to hear the chords going up as we go through this. So you can, that was probably mostly chromatic in this
Yeah, it was
case,
cool though.
but you can, do, I'm just saying, you can play with it as kind of a bass line, kind of like in Art and Mike and I kind of tied in with that guy that has those, what is that technique called where they're using the 1/4, but it's literally the tones away? What's that called, Art? Does he have a name for it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Interval theory?
Interval theory.
The
Fourthy
meter?
fourths.
Meter.
What's that?
Yeah.
Fourthy fourths.
Yeah.
When you're doing a lot of fourths.
No. He's using, when you're saying going to the 4, you're not going to the 4, you're going to the 4th semitone. So it's a different way of thinking of it. So my point is that, not to get you confused, but this is an interesting technique for kind of discovering new things, tonally or harmonically, in transitioning to something else. So you can play with the tones any which way you feel interesting. So the ones that are on the quarter note there, those are specifically chord tones, and then any of the others are just passing tones in between, and you can kind of go chromatically or use whatever scale happens to fit in there. So one of the challenges, and I look back through Tony's exercises to see where this might fit in, and it really didn't fit in. He had the common tone types of theory, but he's keeping usually one common tone, and he's leveraging that to pivot to in a broader distance than say a half step or a whole step raise for a chord. He's using one common tone to switch to the fourth or the sixth or something a little bit further away sometimes, and or as part of going between a progression of some type of a circular, kind of like a circle of fifths, but maybe it's a little bit different succession of chords. So it had a little bit of the common tones. It had a little bit of a connection to what Stewart had presented with that alternate 2-5-1 kind of flavor. And I just thought this kind of fit in the middle of some of the other things that we've been studying and playing with. And I found it interesting, and hopefully you guys can find it interesting. It's not really a theoretical concept. It's kind of like a technique for kind of getting one place to another.
Well, I mean, how is it different than like say medians where you have a chord, you change one or two? I mean, it seems like a specific implementation where we're only moving a half step with two of the elements in the chord.
Well,
And then
medians usually you're usually going up in thirds.
oh, well, no, it's just you have a
Most of
common
them.
note and you move something else. I mean, it could be thirds, it could be anything.
Well,
It could just,
in that case, then that's really keeping that's with a single common tone as opposed to two in a 7 chord. I mean, yeah, there's some parallels. Like I said, it's parallel with a lot of different things that I've been influenced through what we've studied here, but it's different.
yeah, all right.
And that's what, so it's just kind of another variation on being able to play with something.
It sounds very cool what you've done. I mean, it's like definitely something worthwhile here.
Well, I would listen to chord progressions, that you're going through a set of changes, and you're trying to find the best way to, like in a a 2-5-1, you're really just you're changing your you're going from to a diminished. You're really changing that inversion. And I started playing around with the various inversions. That's where it also gets kind of interesting, is try to do that in inversions. So take second inversion and go from your, like in Green Dolphin Street, you're going from actually C major to then C minor, and then you're going to completely different chords. You're going to the so that's a Green Dolphin Street progression. But if you take that same concept and you're going down to then the C minor, and then you're going to go to the B minor or B major 7, and then to the B minor 7. You're just going down that progression like I had here, and you're just going to keep going with that. Whoops, it doesn't. Ta-da, C minor 7, now to the B, then the B minor. You can just keep kind of falling depending on the mood or what you're trying to create. But this is kind of that jazzy influence with it. Now you could take that same thing then and play with it where you're you're trying to write a melody that fits in there, which is interesting. I'll take a progression like this and try to solo over it, and you have to realize what are the notes to stay away from more than anything. But as I was showing with the melody, you can take the one thing I didn't show the difference between as an example. So let me kind of share this. So this is that the first melody. That has one kind of a feel to it, whereas this melody is a little bit less ominous, I think it'd be the right word. You hear what I'm saying in that and there's probably a better way to do this if you take time to think about it, but I just kind of stayed with the chordal tones for the difference between the melody. So one melody was jumping up and down a lot more, and the other one was really just trying to lead down to a chord tone or lead up to a chord tone, and depending on what you want to pull out for a mood, that's where you're going to go with your melody. And if you can figure out how to be able to do that with those the various arpeggio types of things, then you can use that again as a mechanism to help lead you into the mood and the tone and the emotion that you want to pull out of it. So it's a fun technique that I hope you guys will have some fun playing with in writing a composition. You don't have to write your whole composition around this, but use the technique somewhere as a transition or a build-up or a contraction from a particular place, and pick the style. This can be used, I think, effectively in a cinematic type of space, or in kind of a jazzy kind of space. All right. Well, unless you guys have more questions, I'm going to wrap this part of it up. That's the live presentation, and we'll come back and we can stick around for questions and talk about other stuff. So thank you, folks, for hanging in with us today. Harmony Chat, Composer Exchange. Special thanks to Slack and PieBox for allowing us to use their tools. See you around on the next one, and we're going to keep having fun. All right, stop share. And we come down to wherever it went. It went over here. There we go. And we're down. All right, everybody
It's a
wave.
good session.